welcome to another lesson. So in this lesson, we'll look at HTML best practices. Alright, so the first best practice that we'll look at is use proper indentation. Alright, so what do I mean by proper indentation? So the reason why this is a best practice is because it keeps your work clean, right? It's easier for you to see your different tags and be able to correct where the mistakes are, right? So the code is well structured. You're able to identify which one is the parent, which one is the child, So from here, just we can see that the section is the parent of these two elements because they are in the same line. We've properly indented the two elements, right, which is the h3 and the div. And with the div, it does have its own children, right? So these children, because they are on the same hierarchy, you've seen they are properly indented like that, right? So how do you achieve that if, let's say, your code is not properly structured, right? So in the course resources, I shared some of the extensions that you can install in your VS Code. So when you go to your extensions, you can search here, right? So one of the extensions that you can install is an extension called Prettier. Okay, so when you search for Prettier, you'll be able to see it, right? So when you search for Prettier, you see this is the code formatter. So using this code formatter, you can properly make sure that your code is well structured. So there are different settings that you can set up. So when you read through, you follow through the instruction and it will properly tell you how you can use this extension. So the way I configured mine is that when I press Control Tab twice, okay, so when I press Control and press Tab twice, this window pops up that shows me the different formatters that I have. So I've installed a number of them. So there's Prettier, which is the one that I'm showing you. Then there's also Beautify. Then there's also Prettier ESLint. Then there's HTML language features. So you can choose whichever one you want and you can configure the default formatter, right? So what I do is I just choose based on what I'm working with. So with this one, if you noticed, I've been using HTML language features because we are using HTML. So when I press there, it will structure the content properly. So imagine if I had something like this, okay? Imagine if I had something like this, right? Something that was broken like this, maybe this. We bring it here, okay? If I had something like that, okay? This is not properly structured, right? This is not properly structured, okay? If I had something like this, it's a mess. I don't know which one is the child, I don't know which one is the parent, it's a mess. So when I press Ctrl, then I press Tab twice like that, it brings these extensions. So when I press on this one, it will now go back to the way it was. This is a proper indentation and it's clean, it's readable, and it's neat like that. So this is one best practice that you can utilize whenever you're writing your HTML code. Right, let's go to the second one. Okay, so the second one is saying follow a logical structure, hierarchical, right? So when you're writing your code, right, you need to make sure that you follow a proper hierarchy in terms of how you're writing your HTML code. If you noticed on how I was writing the headings, right, on top there, we know that this is the biggest heading. This is like the main heading. So we used the largest heading, right? Which is H1. Remember when we were looking at headings, we said we have headings from H1 to H6. And the smaller the number, the larger the font size for that heading, right? So we used H1 being the largest, right? But as we went down, you notice that the headings kept reducing. Here we used what? H3, even here H3, then inside here we used what? H4, right? So these are subtitle headings, right? These are subtitles, right? Subheadings, rather, right? So here we used H3, here H3 because they are on the same what? Hierarchy indentation. But as we went inside, right, to have other subheadings again, we reduced it to H4. So there is a proper logical layout in terms of hierarchy, in terms of how we are looking at it. Now, we are not just doing this for decorations or to just make it look good. This actually helps when you start looking at search engine optimization, right? So when people are searching for content on different search engines, Google has what we call indexing. It does index and stores your websites, right? So every time that a user searches for content, Google has certain websites that it has ranked being the highest in terms of their search engine optimization. And these are some of the best practices that you need to implement if you want your website to always be on top when people search for content that is related to what your website offers or is about. All right, so we'll go to the third one. Okay, so the third one is saying use, sorry, it's supposed to be use, not user. So use semantic elements. We've learned about HTML semantic elements, and these elements are some of the ones that you need to be using if you want, especially if you want to implement good search engine optimization. Remember, even with search engine optimization, these semantic elements are very vital because they properly um, separate, they properly outline and structure your content. Here, by using the header, the different sections, we can properly view our content. And those, when we looked at these semantic elements, we also learned about an element called footer, right? So you can even add that footer element like that in your content, right? Then you add the paragraph. You can add your copyrights like we did last time, right? You can add your copyright like that. You can put whatever content you want inside the footer. It can be contact details, it can be your email, people subscribing to your content, and all that information, right? So this is one of the, again, it's one of the best practices that you can follow when writing your HTML code. Okay, let's go to the other one. Okay, so the fourth one is optimize images and use auth attribute, right? We learned about this auth attribute when we were looking at images, how we did add images on our pages, right? So this auth is very important. Whenever you're adding images on your page, add it, because when an image is broken, remember the text that you add inside the auth attribute is what will show on the page. And it's actually one of the things that is needed for search engine optimization again, right? So just from this, you can see how search engine optimization is vital and how it plays a major role in terms of making sure that your website appears first and ranked high on different search engines. Okay, so this is actually a major tool that people use for whether it's social media marketing and things like that. Search engine optimization is one of the things that people use to make sure that their presence is there online. Right. So now, looking at optimizing images, why do we need this? It's because some of the images, when they have bigger sizes, okay, they take time to load on your pages. They lag behind like that in terms of loading on your pages, right? And that is bad in terms for user experience. So you find the user will go on your platform and they have to wait for all the content to start loading on your page, and it's slow like that, right? But when you optimize your images, you reduce their size, you find that the user won't have to wait. The images will just load immediately like that, right? So in the course resources, if you check in the course resources, all right, if you check there under introduction to web development, you see that there are two resources that I've added. There's one called resize image. Okay, so when you click on this link, it will take you to this page, right? So this page helps you reduce your file size. Okay, so when I click there, I can actually choose a file from my PC. So let's say, for example, I want to choose this one. I can just open it like that. Okay, when I open it like that, I can actually reduce this. Okay, can reduce the content of this. So if I say, so I just keep this. Okay, log aspect ratio. I just say apply. Okay, okay, like that. Then I just save. Okay, save where to my computer. I give it a name like that. Now I can choose the format. I can choose either PNG or JPG. Okay, and it will tell me the size. At the moment, if I reduce it, it's 2.2. So if I put it on 100% good quality, it's what? 5.5, right? If I remove, this is still good quality image is what? 2, right? Okay, so let me save that. Okay, so I can now choose where to save it. Let's save it uh, in the same folder, okay, or maybe in a different one, right? So let's go to our project. Okay, go to our project. We won't save it in the image. Let's save it in the assets. There's a reason why I'm doing this. So we've saved the image, right? So when we go back to our code like that, okay, so in the images, this is the original image, right? At the moment it was at 1.41, okay, it was 1.41. Is it the same one? 1.41. And if we go back to the assets, and if you check, it's now 1.97. Okay, this one I think because of the huge quality, it has gone beyond. But one of the things I think what we can do is this: instead of using this one, okay, I think with this one, what we can do is this. Let's try to save again. Okay, let's try to save. If we reduce, this is low quality, right? But now let's try to, okay, let's keep the low quality. Okay, let's keep the low quality. Let's save that. Okay, let's save it in the assets. There we press that one, low quality. Let's see the difference between these two images. Okay, let's see the difference between these two images. So this one is now 364 KB. It's very small, but let's look at the quality. Has it reduced the quality? See, it's still good quality. It still looks good, right? Let me open this and the other one so that we see them side by side and see the difference. Okay, so we have these two images. Okay, you've seen that this is the original image. This is the original image. This is the one that we've reduced, right? You can't even see the difference. Okay, you can't even see the difference. So you can reduce the images like this. Okay, so this was 1.14 MB, but we've managed to reduce it to 364 KB. We'll now go to the fifth comment, right? So the fifth best practice, rather, is comment on your code, right? So there are times when you get to share your code with someone, right? Or you'll be working with a team. So you might write code that is complex and you want someone to understand it. So when you comment on your code, it's easier for people to understand what your code is doing, right? Then the last one is test across browsers and devices. This is very important. As we saw with different browsers, they do operate differently, right? So when you are developing your website on one browser, let's say the way we've been developing our sites on Chrome, right? You can also try on different browsers like Firefox, Opera Mini, and things like that, right? Even on different devices. Right now, I'm on a desktop, right? So you can also try it on your phone, on your tablet, how it looks and things like that. Is it responsive? Is it showing the correct things? And all those things, right? So this is the Rust HTML best practice. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next lesson.